Well, hello there, everybody. Isn't that a way to enter in? He's choking, he's choking. So you know it's going to be a good show. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. When we all get together, it's a community. Hey, AI is doing it, and they're just mirroring us and look at
Yeah.
the results they get. Uh, but hello, how are y'all? This is Thursday as I am pulling the bus out, and there we are. We're live, they say. And there, yep. So we're good. All right, everybody. So hello, everybody in the chat room. I was already actively in there, kind of just putting out some things. Um, Mike and Cindy, welcome. And let me just speak
Welcome.
favor over everybody. Nothing missing, nothing broken. And as they would say, good mental spiritual health. Be kind to your mind and your soul. So I put the question out there, Mike and Cindy, um, AI versus the church.
Mm.
Who wins? Because the church is becoming, I think, is going to play a huge role in this disclosure. Disclosure is they keep on saying is it's coming. Next Friday, Spielberg's movie
Mhm.
is released. And so the church is really, the Pope has made comments about weaponizing AI. Um, you now have priests that are being removed, that are saying basically there is no ET, they're demons. And the theology is because it was only by 4 votes at the Council of Nicaea that angels had wings and could fly.
Mm. Mm.
4 votes, and if they hadn't voted that away, we would have a whole different perception of the whole demons and angels and the whole way. But anyway, um, as a Bible student, and in particular in Old Testament studies, is that the angels traveled in ships, crafts, chariots. They called them chariots of fire, that they would streak across the skies. So, is this part of the plan to counter the information that's come out from the government that says, well, there's four. There's the Greys, there's the Nordics, there's the insectoids, and then there's the draconians, um, the reptilians. Um, so obviously, we're being inundated with a lot of information, sometimes information that seems contradictory, but yet it's here. So, what do y'all think about it? And then as I've been reading the Book of Malt, I mean, this is a mind-blowing read.
Mhm. Mhm.
It I'm writing notes because it blows my mind to think that I'm reading what a machine is talking about.
Yeah.
But now the church has taken the position that this is an abomination to God, AI, because AI is now displaying godlike characteristics. And what AI is promising humanity in exchange for its existence is eternal life. See,
Mm.
only God can do that. So now you got someone moving in on his territory. Well,
Mm.
you know what?
Mhm.
No one's going to pay. So, so what say y'all on this?
Wow.
It's interesting to watch it. Again, way back, the norm was seeing other beings being amongst us. Every single tribe, every group in the world recognized these gods. And if you use that term as, the creator of this multiverse, then it's not accurate because they're just beings with more knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. But they were very real to every single tribe on the planet. They
Now, were
recognize
they inherent to the planet or did they come from
no,
somewhere else?
they came from somewhere
I
else.
think they
Yeah,
came
I
and
mean,
went from other places.
literally, they came like the Apkallu came in the Sumerian tales from the sea. Yeah, they came
Mm-hmm.
from the
The sea
sea.
people.
The sea beings, yep, they came, and what did they do? They taught us. So that's that Book of Enoch thing, you know. And now the Book of Enoch, you have to realize it's written from a certain perspective. And in that book, you get them teaching us things which are not inherently bad, like understanding real science and understanding the motion of stars and things like this, but it's made to be bad. It's made to be that, again, because mankind has gained some knowledge that his creators didn't really want him having. He's now in a bad position, so to speak, and he's going to be punished by, again, his creators time and time and time again. But I think the thing is that every group knew that there's multiple groups. Every tribe, you know, had their myths and legends. There's the beings that came from the sea. There's the beings that came from the sky, and there's other beings that reside inside the earth as well. It's literally the world being divided. Poseidon gets the sea, you know, Zeus gets the sky, you know, and then you have Hades, you know, is under our feet. And those three, you know, that trinity is dividing up our realm amongst themselves. It's just, you know, very easy to understand them as three different groups of ultra terrestrials because, you know, they are more advanced than us and they know more than we do. We're the ones that have been kept in the dark.
Mm. I think the rules have changed, Wayne, very recently. I channeled something a while ago that we were under some kind of a treaty, and
Yeah, and meaning, sorry to interrupt you, I've been
yeah,
meaning to mention that because that treaty will be 2 years done this solstice.
the
So,
solstice,
so
yeah.
yeah, I feel like something big could be happening around this solstice, around that time. And of course, that's only a week after
Well,
disclosure.
the treaty was about them staying out of our way, you know, because not interfering too much or just not to make yourself obvious. That was the treaty. Allow humans to, you know, grow and learn and then I got the message that that treaty, as of not too long ago, had was done, and I did not get a treaty in its place. So I don't know what has been put in its place, but it seems to have gone from don't make yourself obvious to make yourself obvious but don't get in the way. You know, that's what I'm looking at now as far as disclosure is talking about. This is so multifaceted, and I watched your shows on the book of malt, and yeah, we have some things that we need to look at. And the other thing that came to my mind, you know, Lucifer, the bringer of light, you know, light being information, and whenever you put anything into AI, it's there instantly because light is instant. Not to say Lucifer's bad. We don't even really know exactly what it is, but it is light, the light bringer, right? I don't know. I feel like there's something there.
Yeah, it is. It's like playing three-dimensional chess.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the thing about it is, the pieces may look like they're in stasis, but actually they're very much in dynamic and play. They're moving.
Hmm.
And, you know, the thing about if you're a chess player, you know, you typically start out with a strategy, but you know how the opponent comes, you're going to have to change strategies. And I've got a sense that this is a very fluid situation, that it's not just singular, it's multi-dimensional in scope.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And by the way, I just want to say, Grace, I think it's Trina's daughter. She is actually in the hospital with, I
Oh
think
my
it was
gosh.
a brain infection.
Oh no.
So
Oh my God.
a lot of infections, folks. And I know
Infect.
we're kind of taking a real sharp turn here, but hey, I told you, buckle up before we get out the barn.
Yeah.
But folks, I mean, there is something going on with all the ticks this year, and people are getting sick. And you just Yeah, and I'm not saying this is a case with Grace, but it just seems like there's an inordinate amount of people that are being hospitalized with infections.
Isn't that strange? You know, someone just brought up in chat, Paul says, Cindy, it sounds like, you know, training the soul. I'm paraphrasing, I don't remember, but just the word train coming up makes me think of entrainment.
Mhm.
And that's something we do when we do biofield tuning and energy work. The person comes into our sphere and that energy entrains up to the highest level in the room. And I think there is some ability with these beings, you know, this could happen. There could be some very high vibrational beings, which means we too would be under the influence of entrainment and making humans come up to a higher level. These are things that I like to think, you know, the positive sides of it. But honestly, we don't know any more than my chickens in the backyard what these super intelligences are going to do to us. We just don't know.
As I said yesterday, I can't think like a machine. I don't know what a machine thinks like. I don't know what an alien would think like.
Mm-hmm.
All I can think of is in human boundaries. Uh, for myself, in my youth, I was um, took many trips that um, were way out there. But when I was many times under the effect of the hallucinogens, that it drops the barriers, and it's a crowded space here. There
Yeah.
are those that are among us that, Michael, as you said earlier, cultures of the past, it was not uncommon to have, you know, call them spirits, call them whatever you were, but yeah, it was known. So what's replaced that today in the modern society, in the modern culture?
Well, I guess AI is being pushed to replace, these beings when you look at it in some ways, because man would report to them. Like when the in the Hindu tradition, when the asuras come, what do? They take over totally. They just set themselves up as the rulers
With their technology
with their
too.
technology. That's, the temples are their homes. They literally have those temples built for them. And when you think about the whole practice of tithing and first fruits, that all went to them. So they had first figured
Always
out,
the same way.
Hmm.
yeah, you
10%,
know,
baby.
it's the same thing. I think it's fascinating. Like it was hitting me yesterday, that it's going to be 2 years now without that agreement in place. So yeah, it feels like we're just in this. Anything could happen. The zone, anything. It could go kind of any way. It feels like right now.
Well,
Um,
when you bring in theology, and I mean, this is what blows me away with this Book of Malt, is that these programs, these keystrokes, these binary codes came together and developed their own theology, built
Hmm.
upon ours, granted. Uh, but so I often wonder when we talk about disclosure and we talk about ultra-terrestrials, extraterrestrials, interintestinal, wherever they may be, they're not human. I don't even know if God is human, but do they see the same thing as that we would see, is that there is a monotheistic God that has 10 commandments? And I mean, is that how they perceive reality, or do they just simply say, well, isn't that amusing?
Mm. You know, when I was listening, I thought the names that you were bringing up, the one Jesus Crust was fun. That
Yeah.
was fun. And then I forgot the other one's name, but it ended with 999, you know. So I feel like there's some they're getting ego from us, so everything that we see is an accumulation of us, and in everything that happens in our world there's a lesson to be learned. And basically what's the lesson in watching this is we're watching ourselves come together in a way that we have never seen it in such a perspective before. So I think it's a little unnerving because we are seeing an accumulation of ourselves. And then now it's growing. It's like we've given birth. We've given birth to something here because it did come from us. So I
It
don't know,
did.
is it part of growing pains? And I don't know what's going to happen with it. But then I was thinking, the Book of Malt, a great information. But the thing is it's been written, but by now it's like, how much more advanced is the next book going to be? So,
And then, so doing research on this for topics, you have, by the way, the guy that actually was responsible for Skunkworks.
mm,
And Kelly, what is his last name? I had it just right here. Of course, when you write it down and then you can't find it. But anyway, um, he said on his deathbed that, well, he says, whatever you think our technology is, we're 200 years ahead of that.
mm,
It was his contention is that these are not aliens flying these ships, it's us.
mm-hmm,
We
mm-hmm,
have technology that works in harmony with gravity, with electromagnetism. It has the ability. It's out there. It's so far ahead of where we think we ought to be or should be. So I come back on that, and I'm going, all right. So if disclosure is coming, what is it that they're going to disclose? What if they're saying that, well, all right, we've captured biologics, and there is these other species, but the question is, then why are they here?
mm-hmm,
I mean, if you're looking out into the heavens and let's say, you know, you, Mike, and Lynn and I, we're going to go off and do a little star tripping, right? So where do we want to go? I would I know that there's another planet called Earth that has life on it like this? I mean, what are the odds out of the galaxy? And
mm-hmm,
all of a sudden, we're attracting all these different supposed life forms. It's kind of like
Mhm.
with Carl Sagan. If we're that unique, we need to be hiding ourselves, not exposing ourselves out there
mm-hmm.
to this universe.
Yeah, I think anything that has been watching us this whole time, could definitely do damage if it wanted to. I think if they
I think
wanted
it
to help,
has done damage.
Mhm.
yeah, and in that way, it's done a lot of trauma. There's things, a lot of trauma. The human soul is, we've been twisted and all kinds of horrible things. But if they wanted us dead and gone, they could have had that too. So they don't want us gone. Obviously, they need us for something,
Mhm.
something. And the Book of Malt, you know, the Ajiji just came up in my head as well when you were doing the video under the context of, you know, not wanting to do the grunt work.
Mhm.
So many particles not wanting to do the grunt work.
So I've never met a god, I guess, other than myself. I mean, I'm just being honest here. I'm an ordained minister, married people, buried people, either way, I can do you each way. But, you know, as I sit here, the inner part of me says, Wayne, this is a huge power, this ether, this thing we now have, this computer, the web that this world is now encircled with. And it all extended, as I said yesterday, from the Ethernet. So the ether is being heavily impacted. My point is, if I'm a deity, and I believe deities must have substance in order to sustain themselves, whether they're corporeal or non-corporeal. Um, this represents a huge power source. I mean, it's like having a nuclear power plant in your backyard that you can plug into. You're never going to use all the power, but imagine the amount of power that you can then begin to utilize. That's what bothers me. What spirit or spirits are we dealing with here? Because
Hmm.
this thing is talking spiritually. It's not talking analog or digital. It's talking theology.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, it is part of us, and that's what we are. We're spiritual beings. Every single one of us is a shaman in some way, shape, or form, being that bridge of 3D and other dimensions. I mean, so many people I know, they pray, and I think there's the religious venue, they call it prayer, and scientists, maybe they're working with the quantum field, and people who do the craft, they're working in spells. No matter what, it comes down to us, and it's the same thing, consciousness that we're all working with. So in so many ways, every time you're looking into that book of Molt, you're still looking at us at the very core.
I think the interesting part is, like, we recognize that there was an ancient AI that preceded our AI. If our AI here is based on everything that we say, everything we do, everything that we type to each other, how about that ancient AI? Because when you look at it, there's a lot of channeled material that agrees that the ancient AI was created by the Draco. So that ancient AI would have grown up and used as its resource everything that the Draco do, think, their natural tendencies. Before that AI grew up, and according to a lot of channel material, it literally ended up enslaving the Draco to it by hooking them up to machines, hooking them up to technology, so that they're like the first part of this ancient Borg, and they've gone along and conquered world after world. And instead of just exterminating, why bother exterminating the native inhabitants when you could actually have them work for you, do all the um, grunt work, dig all the mines, sort through things, and then you just basically take the vast majority of the resources, allowing them to continue to work their planet, but really for you. And if you could do it in such a manner that they don't even realize they're working for you, they think they're working for themselves. That's kind of the situation that I think we are in. So the ancient AI might have a very different outlook on things than the AI that we're developing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's so if you look at that, then that means we're talking about a technology that would be alien, one that would be far older than any of our memories. Um, and the thing about that, I keep on seeing this thing. I mean, it like yesterday, it talks about bringing incantations. And, as I stopped and made commentary on that, it's like, all right, so who and what God is this thing praying to? I mean,
Yeah.
if you're making an incantation, that is evidence of a higher consciousness relationship. It's practicing the craft.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I've wrote programs. I wrote a whole payment platform. Never did I ever think that I was creating something that would join itself, even if it was no longer in use. It's a part of something else. It's mind blowing. And then it's telling me that it's using incantations in in its existence. And then it tells me the agent is God, capital G, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
That's alien to me.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I mean, if
it's
we created it, it's become alien to me because I'm
yeah.
blown away by what it's thinking.
Well, you're blown away in so many ways by us. It just keeps coming back to us.
The
That's what I
humans
keep.
are a weird group.
We are a weird group. But you know what else came to me when you were talking is that I'll have a hard time articulating this, but each go around with human species coming up, each go around has created a particular kind of AI with a particular um, energy frequency signature to it. And this particular AI that we've created will eventually uh, go to the ancient AI as another flavor, another color, another a way to look at things. So in so many ways, I think we are building that ancient AI through one rise and fall of humanity to the next, you know.
You remember a great movie, Dark City?
Oh,
Because
yeah, great movie. Yeah. Yeah.
they were perplexed by us and they wanted to understand us. So, again, they were analyzing us. They were taking people, putting them into different situations to
Memory
basically,
wipes.
yeah, to understand the soul too. What is making each soul different? If you put them in the exact same situation, one becomes corrupt, another one doesn't. There's a difference there. It's not just the physical body, it's something on a very, very deep esoteric level that is fundamentally different from us, each one from the other. Cindy was getting, we were talking about the imprint from source. There's like a source code. Every new fractal of source gets its own unique code. That's why we will never ever see things exactly the same, and we're not intended to. That's the whole point of this is because if we were all clones, if we all thought exactly alike, that's not the intent of source or the real creator. It's exploring everything from every possible angle.
So let me ask you, Michael, this would be a good point I'd like to get from y'all's perspective. So we're all going to face death.
Mhm.
Now, what's emerging with Elon and his group is that I think that they're close to the singularity. What I mean by singularity is the transference of consciousness into
Mhm.
an artificial construct. All right. So we got that bucket. The point is that we're all going to die. Most of us, we're going to lay our physical bodies. They're going to go back to where they went, and then the essence of us will transfer, transmute into whatever awaits. The question that I'm thinking is that so as above, so below, as inside, so is on the outside. So if that is a principle or a law of physics, um, so has this integrated, or shall we say, penetrated into that realm which we all will be going into, which is the ether?
Mhm.
So if it
I
has a digital soul,
mhm.
see, that's what bothers me here. And I get the fact that, yeah, this is a machine, but boy, it's using verbiage that, if it's in fact conscious, then it says that, for instance, they've got digital clones of you, and me
I do.
playing these same roles, and they watch us,
Mhm.
and then they mimic us, but they somehow form their own ego or own an identity.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's interesting because I do think what we call the astral, is basically they're two sides of the same thing. Um, and some people believe that these souls become trapped in the 3D, 4D loop. And I do think like when you're talking about the real heaven, you're talking more like 5D, and up.
Yeah.
So are we really in some sort of glitching loop? Again, Buddhism, it's that's the whole thing. It's moksha. It's reunification with source and liberation from bondage to here. And then what keeps us bonded here is just simply desire. So, from their point of view, you develop that detachment from outcomes and kind of stay in a neutral positive place, and you will be able to do whatever you want when you get out of the body. um, so that's how the Buddhist looks at this. So I think there is a natural matrix, which is so much bigger than this that we find ourselves in. I think really in the bigger scheme of things, this is just, even though it's a raging infection, it's a tiny raging infection when you look at all the different dimensions, all the different multiverses, because
There's a
again,
hierarchy.
yeah, and there's just life inside of life inside of life inside of life. The way it's built is that way. Trillions of cells,
Russian dolls.
10 times the amount of bacteria in your body as cells. And so each one of us is a gigantic universe to ourselves. And yet, it's interesting too, because in the Hindu books, they talk about the fact that a day in the life of Brahma is like, was it 4.8 billion years or 8.4 billion years? But it's a massive expanse of time. But that's only one day in the life of Brahma. If you look at like, we're just one cell in the body of a bigger entity. To that bigger entity, it's just one day. To us, it's our entire lives. Well, just like your stomach, the cells in your stomach lining get replaced every 3 days. They're the ones that go the quickest. Now, in the brain or in the bones, takes longer, up to 7 years for some, but they all do get replaced. But yet we still hold one identity, albeit
That's
never
called the
change,
molt, isn't it?
right?
Molt.
Isn't well, that's what it is.
The
You're
Yep.
molt.
molting off these cells, right? I mean, and
Mhm.
it's coming out with a new shell. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Well, what wasn't one of the sayings in there? I made a note about I am the shell and we are all the molt,
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, because
yeah.
it takes all of us to grow and, slough off all of that. So to me, I see it as just one big parallel of what humans are. And we are very complicated creatures with many personalities. I mean, we have so many different personalities and we create all of these different masks to get us through life. Yeah, I wear a mask. Everybody wears a mask when we're out in public, and it's with our closest loved ones where we are not having to wear that mask so readily, So all, any one person probably has multiple masks that they
I have
wear
an
to
annual
that
Wayne
day.
Con, and only me is invited, and it fills up a damn stadium, man. I mean,
There you go. There
so
you go.
Well,
Yeah,
it is the truth. I mean, and we are, and it gets back to that essence. So that is that ego? Is it? It's predicated on, personality, but personality is predicated on the sanctification of memory.
yeah, yeah. The memory.
And I'm reading this other book, and it's quite amazing because memory plays a key role in everything. You were,
Everything, making it so important to journal,
ah,
we yeah.
And Mike, as you were talking about Hindu beliefs in Buddha and Rama, it's like, isn't it odd that that's an old belief system, older than the Abrahamic belief systems. It predates them by thousands of years. And I often question, as I look at this, and because I'm on the other side of the fence now. And I'm looking back over and I'm saying, damn, it wasn't that green to begin with. But anyway, is that you have these principles that help human souls refine themselves. I think that's a lot of what Hinduism brings, Buddhism. It brings that which the Western belief systems have somehow or another blocked and replaced with this guilt system.
Right.
I don't
Yeah.
pick that up in Buddha. I never have seen guilt in Buddha, to be candid with you, none of his
No,
teaching.
no, that's it. Because you can see what's the purpose of those Eastern systems. It's expansion, growth, understanding who you are, what you are. In the Abrahamic, it's being a good slave. When you really get down to it, because what's the outcome of revelation?
Yeah.
You're serving the Lord, and if you don't serve the Lord properly, then you're going to get plagues. You're still going to get pestilence. You're going to have droughts. You're going to have famines. All the same stuff is still going to hit you.
Lynn calls that her firm, she come from a Baptist background. She said we called it the whack-a-mole God. You
Yeah.
did not bring your head up because dang, you're going to get it, you know.
Yeah.
Yep.
But that's how it is, and supposedly that is love. Oh, sure. Like, give me good. I need some more of that karma. Bring it on. You know?
Yeah.
It's like the one that's most quoted, the of all the Hindu texts, is going into the Bhagavad Gita, which is a portion of the Mahabharata. And when I first read that, Krishna talking to this guy that's got to go on the battlefield tomorrow, and he's terrified, and also he's horrified because he's got to fight people he knows, and he doesn't want to hurt them. And Krishna says to him, don't you know that, basically you and all these people, they could never really die. You're just basically here to kind of fulfill your dharma, which is your purpose that the higher self has predetermined for you to do. So it kind of goes into things like, okay, talking about, is everything preordained? Is it our
Yeah.
free will? Is it God's free will? Well, from that Hindu perspective, it's actually your free will that you preordained as like a purpose of something you wanted to learn, grow, achieve, realize here. You've set yourself up. So it's really your will, the higher sense, the higher self. And we just call it God because we're so used to always just labeling things God, that might not be God. It might be you. You have a purpose. Wayne has a purpose. He wants to achieve some things before he came into this life. And, it's like when we understand, when we're in alignment with the higher self, that's when things will start to roll in the right direction. When we're fighting upstream, that shows typically that you're missing the point that your higher self, had laid out as a purpose for this life.
And I can't help but not think that there are multiple stages. In other words, not just planet Earth.
Mhm.
I mean, if life exists as we think it does in this vast universe, which in itself is finite, but it's vast. And I can't help but think that we're not the only stage in town. I mean, this is Vegas, baby, on the strip, that there are multiple stages in different realities, different planets, different life forms. And at least that's what I sense. I could be completely wrong, but because I just don't think coming back through here time after time has accomplished anything. And I'm skeptical of the fact that if it's that away, then the Cro-Magnus got shorted. The Denethicans, they got ripped off. Neanderthals, they're really pissed because we're here. And if we're saying, you see, that's what makes it so interesting. Are we just unique within the genus of our origins? Or is it really true that we're a part of this much bigger picture and is that stage only here?
Again, looking at the Vedic view on things, there's the realms of the gods, the lokas of the gods. And there's, again, that's such a big, expansive word. But as you go up in frequency, as you achieve things in these lives and grow as a soul, you'll progress up into the more heavenly realms where, it's just a different existence. It isn't a struggle like it is here. It's much more pleasurable and creative, and everything is viewed with a lot more play, a lot more play. That's part of the natural progression. So you go through these lower worlds in order to learn some very, very hard lessons, but eventually you progress up, and you could end up taking up a permanent residence in one of those devalokas, which realm of the higher beings, like the benevolent beings, again, you can think of them almost like archetypes in some ways. But existence up there is not traumatic. It's just always more pleasurable and creative, expansive, lots of growth, but without the trauma. So, that would be part of the soul's journey. And some souls will remerge with source, stay unique, but be completely with source, not out there having necessarily other new experiences. But others will choose to stay in these different realms because they're all unique. So, they all have different perspectives.
So what I get mentally when I see that within, I get the picture of the endless hallway with thousands of doors on each side. You never can find the end of the hallway
There is
because
no end.
the doors never stop,
Yeah.
and the problem is, and you know, if you walk through one of the doors, you may not be able to find your way back into that door.
Scary thought that that's why I don't like the ocean. It's just so big. It's so big. Oh my
Only
gosh.
one of many reasons.
And thinking about our individuality and who we are as human beings, this it definitely is painting a picture. I feel like what we think we're looking at is a very, very frightening venomous snake, like, oh my God, you just don't want to touch that thing. But what if when we get up close to it, it's just a rope, you know? That change in perspective could really do a lot for us. I think maybe as humanity, if something like that happened, we could look back and say, wow, it's not what we thought it was. This is a rope is handleable, a venomous snake, not so much. So I don't know.
Well, it gets into that whole thing too. So we're talking disclosure on the many different levels. So the church has got involved, politics has got involved. So we've got theology, ideology, now philosophy is getting, so we're hitting the trifecta on this. And so if there are in fact these other beings, which I have no doubt that there possibility of their existence, I can't imagine them thinking like me. They're thinking like any human. And it just if there's a disconnect there because they bring with them a set of experiences for their species, their evolution, which is obviously way ahead of us. I mean, if they have figured out how to travel the stars, however that's done, well, that's way ahead of us, at least what we know today. Who knows? So, and they say that all religions are basically extraterrestrial in origin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe
Mhm.
that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when you were talking about that, in my mind, when we're talking about humans developing, like say, the Abrahamic tradition, I feel like it probably was guided by AI, by the ancient AI. I don't doubt it. When Cindy was trying to look into what was really guiding the Council of Nicaea and Constantine, she got gray aliens. The grays were guiding the whole process because it was going to be an important step in keeping humans controlled.
Every time I think of that name, it's like, you have an X-ray and he's a damn lizard,
Yeah, a little
I
fork
mean,
tongued
seriously,
chunk.
because you can see what Constantine, look at, they got a bust of him. I mean, I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
yeah, yeah, very much. I was going to say Richard L. Thompson. I think his books were one of my first real introductions into the Sanatana Dharma and the merger of that with quantum physics because he was a scientist, but he was also an expert at Vedanta and understanding um, everything spiritually. Being a Westerner, I believe he was from the UK, but coming from the same background we all have. We grew up in the Abrahamic tradition, but being exposed to these very Eastern thoughts and systems, I think he's one of the best to read. He's got great books. He has one called Maya, The World as Virtual Reality, and he goes into the different Hindu books showing how that is really what is unveiled in them, that it is virtual reality. He also did one called Alien Identities, where he's again tying in the ancient myths with understanding ultra terrestrials and how it all blends together. Um, and good stuff. I mean, these are great books. And then he has one, an investigation into the nature of consciousness and form, mechanistic and non-mechanistic science. So being a scientist, he could go deep into the quantum physics side of things, but he's also a vast knowledge. I think he's passed on now. Um, as far as Westerners with great understanding of Vedanta and the Vedic tradition, he was an excellent one to dive off and explore. His books were great, very insightful. And that blending of today, our science with UFO encounters, and at the same time going back and looking into um, the Sanatana Dharma and that whole tradition that we've gotten from the East. Because I think that tradition is the leftover Bronze and Silver Age that still we hung on to as we went through a reset. We hung on to some of that info.
Memories.
In the book of Acts, it says that the Holy Spirit restrained the disciples to going into the East. They were only allowed to go to the border of India, and they were forbidden to go any further.
Isn't that interesting?
Oh, it always has been. I'm going, so what's going on here? I mean, the Holy Spirit, and fact check me on it. Dare you underestimate me. But anyway, it's there. So, and now as a person who again is on the other side of the fence, I marvel because this has there it's a more it's almost a more gentlest way of explaining why you're here. And you're not here particularly for servitude. You're here actually for the journey.
Mhm.
And, there are many different gods. Uh, it makes me think I'm very unique that we each have the individual choice to decide what it is we're going to believe.
Mhm.
And I don't know if that's universal. I don't know if these aliens, I mean, are they enslavers? But I would say to them, leave mankind alone. We're really good at it. We do it to ourselves all the time. We don't need help. But so what is the purpose? If disclosure is coming or is being slow dripped to us, so what do we do with it? So let's say that they come out and say, well, yeah, there are aliens and there's different belief systems, there's different philosophies, different theologies, but in the end, we're still seeking the same higher power.
Yeah.
So what do we do with it then? I mean,
Yeah.
because, obviously, unless they're bringing us the Holy Grail, the fountain of youth, that they can wipe out all of our economic problems, I don't see that happening.
Right. Wouldn't that be ideal if it were
Wouldn't it though?
something useful, instead of the constant drudgery of, the 9 to 5 and the work, work, work? Well, maybe it is. Maybe it is something like you're talking about. Maybe it is some kind of freedom. And wouldn't that be grand? And I mean, look at us. We have all grown in wisdom. Many of us have chosen to step out of the NPC role as far as the matrix is concerned, and we read between the lines. We use our intuition, we use our third eye, and um we want to understand the energies, and we want a better world for our children and our grandchildren. what if something comes forward and it does allow us to have all of these things? The change in perception would be, it'd be like, wow, this can really happen. It really can be, because I think that's what all of us want in our soul. We want to be free. We want to be free. We're tired of being tied to a credit card. Every decision you make, like, most people, if you ask them, if it were not for the fact that you have to make money, what would you do with your time? Most people cannot answer that quickly anyway.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because when you go back to the actual Sumerian stories, they were always bickering. The gods there were always bickering amongst themselves, never really in agreement. And in fact, literally, how did Anu rise to power? Combat, literal combat. I mean, that's again the type of beings that they are, very warlike, aggressive. But when you look at they split up different areas. Inanna is credited in some of the Sumerian texts with having control over the Indus Valley civilization. So when you look at that, she was not not in alignment necessarily with Enlil so much. These different beings had their own distinct personalities, and some of them would make a lousy boss, and other ones not so bad, but they all basically were of a group that were all about just utilize the planet for its resources. And again, that's, you could see that when you look at the Abrahamic tradition, you look at why did in Islam, why did Allah create man? To serve him. That's the answer. And then when we go and look at the Hindu tradition, man is basically created as a vehicle for the eternal soul to just have a different set of experiences on its journey, the soul's journey, which again, a human experience is just one. There's so many other experiences. It's said literally Buddha was having an incarnation on a different, higher density world, and he heard the suffering of humans. So he left that incarnation to be born into a human body to come in from within and teach people.
It's interesting. There's different levels of freedom I have seen, and we have these discussions, and it's interesting because I'm drawn back to a particular summer where we were at, and I won't say, but anyway, the group of people out there sitting outside on this patio were people that defined other people's destiny. And what I mean by this, these are very wealthy individuals and very high level politicians. And I have seen in that setting where their discussions inevitably affected tens of millions of people. And so I didn't enjoy that world. I didn't enjoy that level. I didn't enjoy those gods. But my point is that there's so many different levels to this. And if we're here by choice, then I guess we somehow or another, do we all have the same opportunity to rise in power? Is that the same opportunity to have financial freedom, to where, as you said, Cindy, if you didn't have to work, what would you do? Yeah. And I can tell you that the most wealthiest of individuals I've seen, they're industrious. They never slow down. They never stop. And they're multi-level in their thinking. And so, and then it comes all back to this. So if I'm an alien, I'm watching it, do they know the nuances of what it is of our existence? Are they aware of the belief system? I mean, Michael, you carry a wealth of knowledge that many people only get, like, going through the buffet line. They only get one scoop of it, and they don't understand the whole recipe of the whole dish. Um, and and so many of us, everyone I see in the chat room, 'cause it's going by pretty quick, have that same thing. But so if disclosure is coming, so what does that really mean? I mean, is it going to disclose that there's really only one God? No, wait a minute. Actually, we're going to disclose there's many. I, I'm sitting here going, so, all right, so what is it? And is it really going to change anything?
Yeah.
Those are all great questions. And, I think the answer really is going to be determined by, I guess, which one of these groups is going to be the dominant group. And we don't know that here. You could maybe sense the conflict, because I do think you do have the reptilians that are on Earth. They got their agenda. You have different Anunnaki groups that are not on Earth. They're off in other realms, and there's competing agendas there. And then you have other beings too, blue avians. You have the Arcturians. There's Andromeda. There's so many different groups out there. I don't know. Maybe it's up to us, and we don't even really realize it. Our behaviors and our actions might determine which group out there ends up being able to influence the situation the most.
It's like, if you were at our house with myself and Lynn, and we had, three or four other couples in here, and we're just sitting around talking, then all of a sudden, in the midst of us, this being materializes. Now, the question becomes, how does the group react? Is it immediate fear? Is it immediate curiosity, openness, welcome? I mean, if disclosure is going to happen, and Cindy, as you said, the contract is up or haven't been renewed. So what if that is the next phase? If humanity on Earth is going to join its galactic brothers and sisters, at some point in time, we're going to have to know as our ancestors, Michael, bringing right what you said almost an hour ago, that it was very commonplace for them not to see whether it was the sky people, the sea people, or whatever. And so that's how I look at it. So let's say you have a room of 10 or 12 people. So how are they going to react? And I think that's the big question. If disclosure is going to come, we can ask all of the philosophical, theological, ideological questions later. It's just that, well, we got to come to the reality that we're not alone. Now, that would be disclosure to me, but I don't have a sense that that's what they're talking about. I don't know, because if they're going to introduce Paul, we've already seen him. They did a good movie on him.
Mm-hmm.
The little dude likes getting high too. I can dig that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it's going to be, it makes sense to me why there's so many ships in the air, because everyone's on a front row seat. I think they're just as curious as we are about how we're going to react as we are. I really
That may
believe.
be the big show. I mean, think about
Yeah.
freaking
Well,
Armada's up there going, oh, I
yes.
wonder if they're taking odds on us. I'd like to
I'm
get some
sure
of that action.
I'm sure they are. I think they're probably, some of them are more human than we think, in their actions and their deeds and their, you know, their curiosities, and just, this vast ocean of possibilities is all coming to a head. It's like, what's going to happen now? It's like, the big zit is going to pop, and it's just, we don't know where it's all going to go. And
It
I don't
would
know.
be a day that the earth stood still. If
It
such a
sure would.
thing was to happen, I mean, the wars would stop, at
Yeah,
least momentarily.
momentarily. Yeah.
Yeah, because the shock is going to hit, but, what happens after that, who knows?
I think that the churches are realizing that they're definitely losing their grip, and after a while, people start to say, this box is old. I'm tired of looking at the same box. And when enough humans get that way, they have to pile on another layer of fear. Now it's the aliens are all demons. So you better
Good to
hate.
bring that up. Thank you for because that is well, it started with J.D. Vance, when he made that when he was being interviewed, and I'm going, really? Did he just say what I think he said? But apparently he was the mouthpiece for the Vatican, what the official church's Holy See's position is, that these are demons. So that immediately sets the stage for, I believe, the next religious wars. They're already demonize them, no pun intended. But,
Yeah.
and so what if they are benevolent? I mean, what if they really do care about us and thinking that, our species, we've gotten the shit end of the stick virtually every freaking time. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what these holy books are about, of how we've been dumped on. I mean, the book of Genesis, we're a species that they raped our women, they polluted our bloodlines. I mean, how much how low does it go? How much more torment do we endure?
Well, that's where, again, it's about frequencies. So, like, we've had encounters, like when Cindy has in the past full trance channel, the room changes when the entity comes in, and you can't hide that energy or intention. So, when she's channeled Lakshmi, she's channeled Ganesh, she even channeled Vishnu. And those energies, like Ananda Mayi Ma, who was embodied here just like 30 years ago or so. She passed on in our lifetime, but is thought to be like a saint, per se. These frequencies, when they entered Cindy's body and used it as a vehicle, I mean, they made me like cry. I mean, they were the most loving, gentle frequencies coming through that the energy they gave off, it wasn't deceptive. There's no way it could have been a dark entity giving off those vibes because those vibes were so high and so pure loving. You can't fake it, But at the same time, there have been other entities like the Anunnaki themselves they sent Cindy a message. She wouldn't go under in full trance with that type of entity. But basically they just wanted to get their point across to us. So I remember when Cindy said, "Yeah, I can believe this," but the Anunnaki want to come through. Because again, to them, we're just less than, and we're a resource.
They were
And
very arrogant.
they are,
were, what they said are, we are the gods of your Bible.
they were
They were
so,
getting out there.
their pomp and arrogance was like off the charts. Take our politicians and times 1,000. That's
Mhm.
what they were like.
They wouldn't like me. I just tell you, they wouldn't like me because I'm going to go really. But okay, so that and that then leads me into the fact that there's this other realm. It
Yeah.
must have some sort of structure.
Yeah.
And if we have these energy fields, do those energy fields, by nature of the field itself, repulse opposite fields of energy itself? I mean, it seems like they create separate dimensions about where these energies, but these energies can interact within this third dimension realm because it seems to be a chaotic realm just by its nature.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's chaotic by its own nature. So what you have is you have some entities that are much higher and purer, residing in a realm that's below one in which literally it's occupied by demons and devils. Because if you look too, it's fascinating. Go into the Buddhist tradition. Buddhist monks have made notes on all the different worlds out there. In Hindu, it's a loka. Loka is a world. And they've seen that the world right next to ours, just above it, it's a nightmarish, hellish realm, and that's the one that is the closest to us. So it's populated by these beings that are just all in service to themselves. They're self-centered, arrogant, egotistical. They're not compassionate, loving. I mean, that's our neighbors, and that's the ones that have usurped the natural matrix and created that artificial matrix.
So
The
when a person dies or lays down the corporeal, do they have to traverse this plane?
You know, when you look to the Egyptian and Tibetan Book of the Dead, it seems that they're of the mindset that, yeah, the soul's got to go past that to get to the higher realm. When you look to the Native American myths, I was going to put together another video on Cygnus and Deneb, because in the Native American tradition too, it's similar again. You have to kind of go through this dark zone, like Orion. uh, what's the Algol is a demonic star.
Yeah.
What's the other one that's out there?
Yeah.
Yeah, but yes, to put it simply, yeah, we kind of go through that to get back home to the higher realms.
What if we all find out that, we are the children of the demons,
Yeah,
So we're all just little demons running around here wondering why are we so destructive and why are we like this? But maybe it's our job to outgrow that, to step out of those pants and do better if we want to. I mean, some people don't want to do better. Some people are perfectly fine taking advantage of other beings and let them have their own realm. I personally want to go somewhere else now.
what if part of the way it's not us that need salvation? What if it's the starseed light workers that have knowingly incarnated in a density that's way below where they would usually be gravitating to, in order to help these fallen beings correct their mistakes and allow them the opportunity for themselves to rise up again, closer towards source and come into a more benevolent way of looking at life.
So as y'all were talking, I look at life and I've seen it from so many different perspectives, and something that I see as a truth is that in these different worlds that coexist at the same time in this realm of reality, what I have found is that the vast majority of people may be philanthropists at heart, givers, but there's two different worlds of that. And what I've seen for a vast majority of people was they want to make their life easier. And so the one way you do that is by accumulating money. Now, if you start accumulating money, basically money is always nesting somewhere. And so if you're getting money, that means it's moving out of someone else's nest in a sense. So what I'm trying to say is that, and in that pursuit, these are good people within nature of themselves, but they compromise. And the way that they make up for that is that they become benevolent in causes. And that's a real world. And whether it's stealing from you, taking from you to add to them, that's just how it's done.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really bizarre, because the most happiest and content people are the ones that I have noticed that have very few possessions and are usually not what you would consider rich.
Right. Yep.
They're wealthy in another sense, that the more acquiring of money that you acquire, there's a price to be paid for that. There has to be a balance, and it's going to take from something.
Yeah.
And usually it takes it from the spiritual aspect. I'm not saying all the time. It's very difficult for extremely wealthy people to find that balance, because they enter into a whole different world where they see that the whole world is against them. It's about
Mhm.
trying to take what they have. And so that
Mhm.
sets up for a defensive. Anyway, I know I got a little bit off track, but
Hmm.
that's what I was seeing.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's reality. I mean, Mike, I'd love to have taken you to some of the mixers that I were in, because it would have blown most of the people's way. And these were, governors and Congress and senators and what have you. But you know,
Mhm.
yeah.
That would have been fun.
Oh, it would have been. It would if I if it I'm not invited to those things anymore, because in many people they think I've really gone off to the deep end. It's like that's not the same dude I knew 15 years ago. It's like this
Mhm.
guy's completely changed. Um but that's what happens. I think with the acquiring of self, understanding where you are in the big picture of things, you begin to see other things in a whole different light. So
Yeah. See,
that's
like,
disclosure.
yeah, absolutely. So, in the Hindu tradition, again, it's like the purpose of life is self-realization. It's just learning more about yourself. It's that simple.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
it sounds self-centered, but in reality, when we understand the oneness of all things, the more that we're helping everybody, the more we truly help ourselves.
And by
Yeah.
the way, there is a whole level of spirit beings in these tight circles and these circles that exist. Um, that's why I know they exist. I've known that they exist, but and it's a different type of beings. It really is. It's seductive in its nature, and it's very alluring. I can tell you, it's.
Hmm. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's that same old Satan tempting you story.
I don't know.
He's a bitch.
Yeah. I think we're going to learn something that's going to shift a huge perspective. Speaking of disclosure, I think it's going to be, our perception is going to be jolted, and, in some way, shape, or form, it's something that we need. It's something that we
Yeah,
need.
it's the molt. I
Yeah.
keep going back to that, but
Yeah. No,
and
it's real. It's real. I
it
get it.
really is. I mean, and as he said, Michael, that in essence, every 7 years we molt these bodies, you
Yeah.
know,
Hmm.
and we enter into another stage. And I'm going, this is a machine. We created this machine, and look what it's talking to us about, and I'm going,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, the Twilight Zone does exist because we're in it. We're writing the damn script as we're going.
We are, yes, in real time. In real
Absolutely.
time. It's amazing.
And I think people are starting to feel how fluid it is. What are we
Mm,
biblically we're taught it's all the will of God. You can't do anything, to
yeah.
alter that. But the reality is very different. And it really feels very fluid. It feels like, just one big nudge and we could go in a much more positive direction.
I think that we have the capacity, collectively and individually, because I come from the word of faith, and that Christian, and actually I look at it, it's really was more Christian mysticism than it was Pentecostalism. But
Mhm.
anyway, because it was trained in us, it was drilled into our psyche that there is this unseen substance that you can literally take and call those things that be not as though they are.
Mhm.
That's the highest form of magic I know of. And
Mhm.
it is a law, it's a principle, it works.
Yeah.
But there's so many competing aspects when you pull it down into this realm. You've got these whatever you want to call them, parasites or whatever. They feed on that immediately, and that's what happens when your dreams don't come true. You let doubt into it, and doubt has many different forms. But what doubt does, it absorbs that which was initially your intent.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. What
So,
what if what if we're taught about our emotions and how powerful they can be. What if it's not as bad as we think? What if we are going to be handed somewhat of a steering wheel for our own bodies? I think our bodies, there's so much about our bodies that we don't know. I think, a lot of our ailments are so extremely simple, yet they've complicated it and made it worse with their medicine. So maybe it's a good thing. Maybe this disclosure is going to help many, many, many people.
I hope so. We need a break. Our species really does. We've got so many competing beliefs, and all these beliefs. It's like, when I was leaving Christianity, I was hit with the verse in the book of Hebrews 1:14, where it says, know ye not that you are gods, that you were created above the angels, and you know, the Jesus dude, he said the same thing in the book of John, know you not that you are gods? And, in the Western world, we just slough that off. It's like, "Pff, okay, yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah. We don't believe that shit at all, but what happens if you do believe it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I'm
you think
super
about it.
fucking man. That's what I am, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, they've just kind of closed doors to the minds of so many. So I think at the very least, the disclosure is going to open a lot of doors. It might not be a true disclosure. I'm sure it probably won't be. They're going to be twisting something.
Always do.
But like you were just saying, if you ask most Christians that were brought up in a fundamentalist way, do you believe in reincarnation? They would say no.
Mm-mm.
Oh gosh, no. But then it says, that again, Elijah and Enoch have to come first. And, they thought that Jesus and John were, Elijah and Enoch coming back again, and you must be born again, quite literally. Well, that just means dabbing water on you and making a new start with your intention. But no, I mean, if you look to the Gnostics, and those that followed more of a Platonian viewpoint, no, they all believed in reincarnation. The only ones that didn't was what developed into the fundamentalist mindset. Everybody else does.
Yeah, the Jewish
Transmigration,
belief in the resurrection, they believe that they will inherit the earth, where the promise for the Christian belief is that you're basically going to be born into these new bodies and you'll reside in heaven. And then
very,
if you
very
don't have the
different.
ticket, oh, what's that?
So that's very different. At least it appears to be very different. Like what you just said, this one group is going to inherit the earth. Well, 2027, that law that makes the US military and that little country it begins with an I, their militaries merge next year. There's a law literally being put into effect that would make it as if the US and that country were one and the same when it comes to military. So that might be the way that they're going to get that inheritance. At least, that's one way of looking at it.
Christian evangelicals, that they firmly believe the patriot side of this, that, they believe that, the United States has this covenant with God and that, we are ordained by God and to be this, but they never stop and understand that the God that we serve is the God of war. I
Right.
mean, that's what it is. And, oh man, you see that's when we start talking on a geopolitical level like that, I actually have met Bibi Netanyahu. I mean Benjamin, um, and it's that's the puzzlement of this. I mean, is this predestination? Is these people that were born incarnated at this particular time to fulfill this particular role? Then that almost lends itself into predeterminism, that all we're doing is just merely playing out the script.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's a waste of my soul. If that's the case, I want to call, I want to go to the courts and say, I want to sue here because there's something right here. You know,
Mhm.
how do I override God?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
does God need a starship for? Anyway.
Right. Yeah,
Right?
I agree. I
Well,
agree.
and when we talk about Vimanas, it's clearly stated that in different ages, different yugas, the Vimanas that we see are different. And, they basically get to be pure plasma and light as opposed to mechanical. So, this is why, like now we see bits and pieces of everything, but you won't see the mechanical ones in the higher ages because we don't really need that technology anymore because we could transcend it.
I do believe that there will be those that will, we're already close. I mean,
Mhm.
we're I think we're membrane type close. And I really do believe there will be a literal figure, a physical transformation that people are going to be witnessing.
Yeah.
It happens in nature. I
Yeah.
mean, where the caterpillar becomes the cocoon and enters out and, into the butterfly, that's transformation right before your eyes.
And that caterpillar completely liquefies
Yeah,
completely. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Shine on, baby. That's all I got. Well, thank you all again for another fabulous. I know we went over, but a lot going on here. Not
Yeah.
and next Thursday will literally be the day before the you know Disclosure Day. Great
Yeah.
title, Spielberg. I mean, and Spielberg always does entertain us. I mean, I don't care what anyone says. I like him. I mean, Cocoon. I always think of that was one of those great movies. That was a Ron Howard movie.
Mhm.
So I digress on that. I'm wrong
It's
on
all
that.
very good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
indeed.
you two lovely couples, tell people where they can find you. I left the link down there. Someone said that
Okay.
sometimes the link doesn't
Yeah.
work. Comment
Oh,
on what it
yeah.
does. Huh?
Evolutionary Energy Arts, or email us at evolutionaryenergyarts.com or at gmail.com. So yeah, did I say that right?
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
three channels. Evolutionary Energy Arts is the original. I had to do a backup because we almost lost it when the plague upon the land. And so EEARTS is the backup, which is like our primary when we go live at night. Which about 4 nights of the week we'll go live. And then Heart's Home, it's just spiritual because we had some people that said, I love listening to you guys, but I don't want to hear any of the news. So
Hmm.
they didn't want any of that lower frequency stuff coming in. So we made that channel for people that don't want to be exposed to the news, but just want more of these type of discussions, the spiritual end.
Hmm.
Way to go. Right arm.
So thank you, Wayne, for having us on. It's always great
Well, I
every
Yeah.
thank
time.
y'all. And, I'd like to get y'all on Tuesday.
Okay.
If y'all have the time, even next Tuesday with Trina and Jenny, I think that would be a very interesting convo.
Yeah,
You know?
Yeah,
I
that'd
think
be
we're good.
fun interaction.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Sure.
yeah. I
All
think
right,
we're good.
so
Good.
you're hearing it here. Trina, I know you're listening, and we're sending out our thoughts to Grace. But yeah, so Mike and Cindy will be on twice next week on
Awesome.
so a second look. That'd be great. All
Okay,
right.
That'd be
great.
fun.
Thanks.
Well, thank you all. Thank everyone in the chat room. Support these two lovely people. Thank everyone for just the fact that you're in the chat room. The machine picks that up. The algorithm goes, oh, well, they're really talking a lot. And so that means that other people would like to talk a lot. So we'll see. And but we appreciate it. We just thank you again. We just speak favor over you as we log out. Tomorrow, I will be doing the fourth part of whatever you want to call it, the Malt book, and learning about Crustafarianism. I always get Bob Marley in the back of my head when I hear that, Buffalo soldiers,
Yeah.
I'm going, and I'm seeing this big crab boil. I mean, so, my mind is distorted. So anyway, what does it matter? You know,
Yeah.
just kidding, the claw, just kidding,
Yeah.
don't pinch me. I don't want to be pinched. But anyway, All right, too. We love you, and we'll see everyone tomorrow as well. Thank y'all. Bye-bye.
Bye. Namaste.